You guys, we're going ahead, and if you don't mind, if you're hungry, grab something to eat. In about 10 minutes, we're going to get started. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna put YouTube back on.
Yes.
You want to play the train song?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to cue it so it'll be.
There you go. And then when you're ready, just click on it and it'll play.
Okay, so do this.
Pre-order now.
All stations on my mark. 3, 2.
I know it's gonna, I don't know if I'll put it in. Okay, ask them to do it because I don't want this. I don't know how to do it. Okay, but ask him because he has the. Hold on a second. It's on YouTube. Because I don't want to mess this up because I don't know how to get back to it. I don't remember the name. I promise you.
Chip In is a fundraiser. Chip In is a Chip In is a fun.
If you're already in, make sure you have something to write with and a memo, and then we'll be doing the handouts once we get started. All right, got about 5 more minutes to get you into the restroom. They're going to be right here to your left, and hopefully you guys can get excited to learn some stuff about nonprofits. And if you haven't already, can you please go ahead and check in if you're on social media, check in on Facebook. If you check in on City Hall, it should show the event already. Go ahead and check in and say something good about it. Nothing bad, food is good, ready to learn, something like that. And then we have the social media board that you can take photos with. And you'll see the hashtags. I'm sorry, I'm going to be over you. You see the hashtags. Go ahead and make sure you use those hashtags as well when you're checking in. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. My name is Douglas Lawson, Commissioner here in the city of Riviera Beach, and we are hosting our first annual event called Nonprofit 101. What we did as a council is we decided to change the narrative within our community. We decided to push the direction and be the change agents for this community that's necessary. So what we did is we partnered with nonprofits. Community benefits are a benefit that we receive to provide funding for different nonprofit organizations. So what we're doing is we're actually partnering with them to allow for them to host developmental programs to teach people about certain things. The last symposium that was hosted, I actually hosted a symposium about mental health in the minority community. That's something that I believe is vital within our community. Now our focus and our new direction is going to be nonprofits. Teaching and educating individuals within the community about nonprofits, how to establish them, how to run nonprofits, and how to run them effectively and efficiently so that we can actually pour it into the community. So what I do is I am just a policymaker. I'm not the professional in any of these expertise. I just look for the individuals that are the professionals within the field and bring them to the community. So I want to now introduce Ms. Sandra Stringer, who's actually going to be the host of the event. If you guys can give her a round of applause and thank her for hosting it. Her organization, Urban Institute, is actually going to be facilitating this three-week workshop. So make sure that you guys are here every night. And if you guys were not able to make it tonight and you're watching at home, please make sure you register and try to come for next week's event, or you have a little bit of time to get here. There's going to be invaluable information to learn. Thank you, guys. Ms. Stringer.
All right, everybody, good evening. Good evening. Oh, y'all got to stand. Good evening. Happy Monday. I know it's the first of the week for some people. I work 7 days a week, so it doesn't matter to me. But I got to give you guys my little intro. For those that don't know, I am the train conductor trainer. And the music. Let me turn it up some. Listen to the music. Okay, we got to get the music right. We got to get the music right. I'm not going to dance, so y'all can calm down. But I just want you to hear my little intro song. Just give me a minute. It was working fine. So you are in for a treat. We are getting ready to take a train ride. 3 specific destinations. One is called the Foundation Station. We're going to stop there. We're going to talk about foundation of nonprofit, right? Then we're going to talk about the program station, which we're going to talk about what type of programs and how they are developed. And the utmost one that everybody want to know about, and that's the money station. All right, so you can sit down for, I'm sorry. Turn that down. You can go ahead and pass out the papers. All right, so it's just the teacher side of me. I need crowd participation. We're supposed to have a lot more people here, but we don't care. Those are people that didn't come. Hopefully they're on their way, or they will make it next week. But you got to endure me. Since we're on the train ride, you have to, what does sound as a train makes? Well, that's a small baby train. All right, so that was a little tune-up. That was a little tune-up. But for those that, you're business-minded, like, I didn't come here to do no chain ride. I'm sorry. I believe we should have fun and learn. If you're not having fun, then you're not learning. So I need you guys, on the count of 3, you're going to give me your best choo-choo. All right? Pay attention. 1, 2, 3. Y'all got me a little convinced, just a little convinced, but I think you can do a little better than that. One more time. 1, 2, 3. All right, you may have your seats. Well, welcome. Can we give Councilman Doug Lawson a great big hand? A great big hand. Awesome sauce. Let me tell you this. I live in the city of Riviera Beach, been here a little over 19 years, so I think about 19 years, but I have never seen anything like this before. So I am elated, first of all, for his vision for this particular program, and second of all, I'm elated because I'm the facilitator. So thank you so much, Councilman Lawson, for this, and we're looking to do many more things. So I am Sandra Stringer. If you want to know more about me, my bio is in the back. I have the awesome job being the president and founder this October 13th, 13 years of Grassroots Consulting Incorporated, and the volunteer executive director of GCI Training and Empowerment Center, doing business as the Urban Institute of Excellence and Certification. That's a lot. So without any of that, you can read my bio later on tonight, or you can Google me, and you won't find a mugshot there. I'm so excited about that. But we're here to learn about the world of nonprofit. Anyone in here already founded a nonprofit organization? Any founders in the room? A few. Okay, a few founders in the room. And notice I said founders and not owners. Ooh, the room just got quiet. I know. You're not owners. We're going to talk about that. Don't delete me off Facebook if you're my friend. So we're going to talk about a nonprofit is not owned. You can be a founder. We got a lot of ground to cover in a very short period of time. But before I get into my particular presentation, we will have different speakers for about 5 minutes for resources for nonprofit organizations. And I want to be able to, give me 1 minute, I'm sorry, introduce her to you for tonight, and then she'll be a few minutes, and she has additional information outside, and we'll be here throughout the duration. This is Kate Pracy. She's the business advocate for an organization called Beyond. It is a resource for nonprofit organizations. So without further ado, can we go ahead and give her a hand as she come to the front, please?
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming here tonight. I appreciate your time and your effort. I know that it's hard to sometimes get out after a long day, and you know, we are all here trying to do well and do good. And I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My father was a Southern Baptist preacher. My mother was a school teacher, so I have been in the nonprofit world since I was on the cradle roll. So I work for a company called Beyond. Beyond is owned by a philanthropist, and we give 51% of every dollar to our nonprofit. Give something back. Give something back. We were founded to support. We are a subsidy of a charity, and our charity gives scholarships to foster care children and children of parents that have been incarcerated. We give a full 4-year scholarship. We pay for everything from socks to sheets, books, tuition, everything, because these kids a lot of times don't have an adult in their life to help them out. That is what Beyond is founded on. Those are the values of our company, and that is why we do this program called Chip In. Chip In is I'm going to show you guys a short 90-second video about Chip In real quick, and this is how we can help our nonprofit partners.
Chip In is a fundraising program that connects local businesses with nonprofit supporters to raise money. Here's how it works. Supporters buy participating Chip In merchants that donate a portion of the purchase back to the supporters group. It's easy for you to get started. Just download the Chip In app, select your nonprofit, and link your credit and debit cards. Then shop with participating Chip In merchants and use your link cards as you normally would. You'll get a text message confirming the amount you raised and prompting you to share on Facebook, asking your friends to buy from Chip In merchants too. And if the businesses you like aren't already part of the Chip In network, it's easy for them to get started. While you're in the app, just recommend them and we'll reach out and invite them to join. And when they do, you'll have another place to send everyone you know to make purchases and raise money for your group. Parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends and neighbors can all chip in and help your group raise money. And the money raised can add up fast. Use the Chip In app to find businesses where you can get your oil changed, pick up pizza for the team, treat your kids to ice cream, and more. Your group can easily raise several $1,000s a year just by making everyday purchases from Chip In merchants. When we all chip in, it's a win for the nonprofits you support and the entire community. Because when you give back to the community gives back to you.
That is just a little tiny taste of what Chip In can do. This is basically a free suite of technology that is available to our nonprofit partners. There is a couple of things that Chip In does for your nonprofit. First of all, we give you the lowest rate of accepting digital payments of any program in America. We have a fixed flat rate. We do not take a dime of your donations. There are no platform fees, and there is only the cost of processing the payments that you receive to Visa and MasterCard, but we prompt the donors as part of the donation to pay that fee for you. So, for instance, you get to keep 100% of your donations, and many of our donors opt to cover the processing fees of their transaction. The average net effective rate is 0.04%. What people usually pay in a business is about 2.5%. So this is a very, very affordable way to accept payments over and above cash and checks for your organization. The few things that Chip-In gives to your organization is a custom donation page. We give you a website for free. It's what I call a sticky page. It has your logo, it has your nonprofit's mission, and it has a way to collect donations through a link that we give you that doesn't cost you anything, not once, not ever. You can use that link to collect funds on a brochure or at a nonprofit organization event, put it up on the screen. You can put it out on social media. But what it does is it creates a website for you to use, and it collects donor data, so it keeps you compliant with the tax regulations. It lets you know who donated, how much, and it gives you a way to contact them. It also can give you a recurring donation page. So these are completely customized. We do that for you. You have a nonprofit partner through our national Chip-In network that will help you design and make sure that the page does exactly what you want it to do. That comes with the flat rate processing. The donors are prompted to cover your credit card fees. There's no monthly fees and no setup fees. This custom sticky page can replace the Donate Now button that you would normally send somebody to PayPal, except PayPal takes your money. We don't. So it also gives you custom ticketing and event pages. So if you guys are having a gala, if you're having a silent auction, if there's different ways that you're being creative in your fundraiser, we can help you do that. And we can do it at almost no cost. Golf outings, sports banquets. We give you a payment portal where you can go online and check who those donors are. You can see it at your fingertips on any PC, any laptop that you have. We also have Text for Good, which is a text-based donation platform. You get to collect donations at a live event without any hardware. So, you know, I'm sure many of you guys have seen this. It's very prominent in fundraising for political events. Text, donate to such and such and such and such. We give you that option so that you can send your sticky page to anybody who wants to donate anywhere across the entire world so that they can have your link in their hand. You can pay for silent auctions the same way through this same link. And additionally, the last thing we have is this Buy for Good nonprofit network. What this does is any merchant that is working with Beyond has an option to give back to their community. So if you own a business and you're processing payments with Beyond, you can choose to give back 5% or 10% of any person that has downloaded the app, linked their card, and purchases something from you. Our merchants love it because instead of printing out a 10% coupon and the people look for someplace to go that gives 10% off and then they don't ever come back, we've found that people that are supporting a charity, like the ones you guys are starting, are some of the most motivated buyers in the marketplace. And if you give them a chance to raise money every single time they get their nails done, every single time they buy food, every single time they get their hair cut, they go back time and time and time again. And that money, that small donations, just shows up in your bank account the next day. And there's no cost to you. You send buyers to your friends' businesses, they profit, they do well, and your nonprofit grows through those donations that come in day after day, week after week. So it's a way to keep our money local. It's a way to keep supporting our friends and families that are opening businesses in our neighborhood. They need the foot traffic. They need you to come in and buy from them. And they're willing to give back. Instead of discounting the margins that they need to be making to keep their doors open, they're saying, come into my business and spend your money here, and I'm going to give back to my community. That's what the Chip In Network is. It's about keeping our money local. It's about doing good for our community. And there's virtually no cost to the nonprofit partners that we work with. We want to take this program nationwide. We processed our 1 millionth donation dollar on Saturday of last week. So we are very excited about this program. It is less than a year old. And we have over 4,000 businesses nationwide. So you can go to Virginia and find a Chip In business and raise money for your nonprofit right now. Chip In is live in the iOS and the Android app sphere right now. I would encourage you guys all to download it. Take a look at some of the businesses that are in your area that you can shop at right now. And call me if you want to add your nonprofit to the network. It doesn't cost anything. I can get you set up right away. And these flyers are out front. It goes over all of the information. And my contact information is on here if you would like to make an appointment. I would love to sit down with you. We're expanding our products. We're adding all kinds of new things. I just talked to our Chip In National Director on the way here tonight. She just partnered with a nationwide silent auction partner that's going to be given for free. So we're going to have new things on the horizon. But if you guys are looking for information or tools that can help your nonprofit, Chip In might be just what you're looking for. Thank you for your time.
All right, so what 3 stations are we going to hit these next 3 weeks? What's the first one? Foundation station. The next one? Program station. And the last one is the money station. That's the most important one, right? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to ask you if you would, go ahead. Everyone should have a memo pad. Go ahead and write your questions down. I'm going to do my best to break about 7:40 so I can get all the questions answered. And then if you have anything for the following week, just, write it down, and I'll try to answer as best as possible. Can everybody hear me all right? Good, good, good. All right, so let's go. Just to give our mission, I don't know if you guys know, but there are so many different nonprofit organizations. And a lot of times at the grassroots level is when we're self-funding our own vision, our own dream, and our own goals. And what I always tell organizations, whether it's $5 or $5 million, the process does not change. So we at GCI, the Urban Institute, basically are here to help grow capacity of the nonprofit organizations, all right? That's our mission, vision, and values. So did you know, according to the Florida Association of Nonprofits, there are over 12,000 nonprofits that are started every year for the last 10 years. Over 429,807 people are employed by that. But I want to go back to, let me see if this is going to let me do some. Okay, there we are right there. Florida nonprofits generate more than 86 billion. Nonprofits generate 86 billion in annual revenue. Florida nonprofits control over 192 billion in assets. People give 11.1 billion to charities each year. That's a lot of billions, right? And the average contribution to Florida Itemized in 2011 was $4,102. But this is what I want you to pay attention to. Florida foundations annually give $1.4 billion. Now, that number represents a lot of different things. But this is some additional information. I don't want to go there. Did I miss something? Oh, my gosh, I think I missed something because I wanted to tell you about how many that's in Florida, in Palm Beach County. I hope I didn't. Okay, we'll get to that. I may have, it's probably in one of these slides. So what is a nonprofit organization? Who can tell me? What's a nonprofit organization? Anybody? Raise your hand. What is a nonprofit organization? It's not the come up. No one knows what a nonprofit organization is? A tax-exempt organization. Thank you, Tessie. It's a tax-exempt organization. So what it does is you don't pay taxes on the money that you earn. And I say earn because even with grants, you're still earning. You do it with sweat equity instead of necessarily doing, a product or a service. Okay, so a nonprofit organization is a charitable institution or charitable organization that receives their funding for the most part from the public, either through grants, private donations, or fee for services. I want you to make sure you write that down. It is not wrong to charge for services. And once we get to week 3 and we talk about funding, you will understand very clearly why it's important to have a diversified means of income. Because contrary to what you may see on the website, that there's all these millions of dollars that are around, and there are, but it takes a much longer time to have access to those dollars. And this is why this is so important, because a lot of times our back office practices and procedures is what hold the nonprofit organizations up from accessing those billions that I just talked about. All right? Say that one more time. A charitable organization that does not pay tax and supported by the general public through grants and donations or fee for services. So how many nonprofit organizations do you think there are? 3? Give me some more. How many? 29 different types of nonprofit organizations. Generally, you will hear about the infamous 501c3 because that is the one that most people will give to because their donations are tax deductible. But there's 29 different ones, and I just want to give you a few and tell you a little bit about them. So your 501c2s or your holding companies for exempt organizations. So what that is, if you're a nonprofit, and a lot of times we don't even know about this at the grassroots level, they take their assets and they put them in a 501c2. Anybody can tell me why you think they do that? They're not taxed. So anything you get is not taxed, so that wouldn't be them. It's a way of shielding from being sued. Because it's not under your auspice. You can't do transactions or anything through a 501c2. It is a holding organization. It holds assets only. All right? A lot of times, especially in the church world, you'll hear some of their larger entities that do capacity building training. They will tell you, keep only enough money in your general account to do business and pay your bills. Everything else, move it to your 501c2. What about a 501c4? Can anybody tell me what that is? 501c4s are going to be your civic leagues, your social welfare organizations, and your local associations for employees. Okay, 501c6 is going to be your chamber of commerce, your real estate boards, and so on and so forth. There's over 29 different ones. I will make sure I make copies and have this for you on week 2. And don't forget, if you have questions, you're going to write them down at 7:40. If somebody could be my timekeeper, I will answer questions at the end. So what type of programs can be administered under a 501c3? What type of programs? Religious is one. What type of programs? There's no right or wrong answer, you guys. Social. Sporting, education, mentoring, economic empowerment, housing, leadership. Can I tell you a secret? And I hope I don't get blasted for this. Anything you do to serve a public good can be a program under a nonprofit organization. I make a joke in a much smaller setting. I said, if you want to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, we can make it a nonprofit. I'll ask you what kind of jelly, what kind of bread, how many people you want to serve. Do you want to do it in the afternoon? Do you want to do it in the evening? Do you want to do it in the park, or do you want to do it in a table? As long as it's serving a public good, it can be a nonprofit organization. Now, the caveat is, should everyone found a nonprofit organization? I'm going to tell you no. Because people don't understand, it's not all of this money just laying around. There is money out there for it, but a lot of times we operate from our heart and not our head. What will happen is, I was driving today, and I'll move forward because we got a short period of time. I was driving today, and I seen all of these Dunkin' Donuts now partner with the gas stations. Anybody notice that? I mean, everywhere you tell me Dunkin' Donuts is like taking over. I'm not a coffee drinker. But I said something. They see the trends. They're not worrying about being a standalone anymore. They understand that it takes partnership to make things work. So even in the nonprofit arena, we have to understand that should we be a standalone organization, or should we work with other entities that are doing some of the same similar things? Now, I'm going to say this. It got to be people that you can trust, all right? Because everybody can't handle money. They get one grant, they think they're rich, and they get MIA, and that's not good, all right? So those are the different programs. What is a 501c3 is and what is not? A 501c3 organization is a designation, but should not be a mode of operation. It is a designation and should not be a mode of operation. What do I mean by that? You need to be operating a nonprofit organization just like you would do a corporation within the regulation guidelines. Why? Because if you don't, you will not be around much longer. It's vitally important that you understand you need a budget. That budget needs to balance. And there are times I'll come up with things that as I'm talking, nonprofits can make investments. How many here heard that you can't make a profit if you're a nonprofit organization? Only one person heard that? Okay, I know, because I get phone calls all day, every day. You know, I want to start a nonprofit organization, but I need to eat. I said, who told you to starve? I need to make money. Who told you you couldn't? Don't get your information from somebody that don't know the industry. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But what I am saying is you can make money having a nonprofit. And I'm not going to do no name calling, But if you check GuideStar.org and you see our large organizations and the money their CEOs make, 6 and 7 figures. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone because I forgot we're being recorded. All right. So it's a designation, not a mode of operation. What do you mean a nonprofit is not owned, but it can be founded? You do not own a nonprofit organization. The IRS says that you as a founder or a visionary could incorporate it, but there are board members that should be the oversight of that organization. So you can't walk around with a checkbook in your purse or your back pocket. I just got in trouble. You cannot make all the decisions on your own. Yes, the board can give you authority, but a nonprofit organization should be the oversight through a board of directors. Now, I know half of the room is going to leave after this. And everybody on the board should not be your uncle, your cousin, your mama, them, and all them nims. Okay? Why? I'm glad you asked. For several reasons. One, you need diversity. I'm not just talking about race. You need diversity of thought process. You need diversity of subjective views. If everybody on the board know the same people you know, where will your income come from? Where will revenue come from? Because once you ask those 5 friends, that's it. Okay? So I'm not saying that it's not advantageous to have people on your board that support your vision, but really having family members on your board is considered nepotism. Because where is the subjective overview? People get so upset with me, and I better not say that because I know I'm gonna be on. I better not say that. Okay, let's keep moving. State requirements. So the state of Florida requires that individuals that start nonprofit organizations be at least 18 years of age. They also require that you have a registered agent to be the individual that receive notifications. I want to put a pause right there. The only caveat is the organization itself cannot be their own registered agent, but the founder can be the registered agent. Because what that does is saying that you're going to be responsible for any legal documentation to get to the appropriate decision maker. And the reason why I say that, because I have people call me. I'm not talking about LegalZoom. Did I say that out loud? I'm not talking about any of those people. You do not have to pay them people $250 to be your registered agent. Okay? You don't. All right? And the other thing is they require that you have a physical location, and you can have a separate mailing location, but you have to have a physical location. So what does that look like? If you're starting off from your home, you can use your home address. And in a couple of weeks, I have virtual office, so you can use that. Yeah, y'all pray. Okay, so that's important. Cost for that, and I think I'm going to get ahead of myself, but I want to do it while I'm thinking about it, is a couple of things. $78.50 or $87.50. Let me say this. When you are incorporating a nonprofit organization in the state of Florida, do not do it online. People say, well, I don't know what you're talking about because I did mine online. That's great. You got through the cracks. But the IRS requires specific language in their application that the state of Florida do not ask. They don't allow enough space, and they don't ask all the questions. So if you got approved and you did it online, just say thank you. But that's not the appropriate way to do it. You would need to mail your articles of incorporation in to the State Department of State. Because what you're doing is, if you did do it online and you did the IRS application, you told a little fib. Because the IRS application asks you, do your incorporating documents contain a dissolution clause? We'll talk about that in a minute. Do your application contain your purpose? The state of Florida only allow you 240 characters. There is no way possible you can include the language that the IRS require because it's not enough space, and it doesn't leave you enough space to put your specific purpose in there as well. Okay? All right. Y'all still with me? Okay, this is good stuff. Is it worth your time? Cool beans. So the IRS requires a dissolution clause. What is a dissolution clause, Chandra? I'm glad you asked. What does that mean? If you go out of business, you cannot take the computer that you bought for the organization. Oh, yes, I can. That's my computer. No, it's not. It's public dollars. You cannot take the belongings. Do people do it? Yes, they do. Do I want to know? No, I don't. The IRS says if you're publicly supported, everything that you process through that organization belongs to the public. So if you close down, you are required to do two things: pay all your bills, and any asset that's left, you're to give it. I know I just lost a whole lot of people. You to give it away to a similar organization. That's the law. Do people... I can't help what people do. I'm just saying what the law is. All right? They also say that you cannot participate in specific political campaigns. Oh, man. Uh-oh. So to anybody that's watching from the church, you can't be allowing those people in your pulpit unless you invite everybody. That's a good way to get in trouble with a capital T. All right? I'm going to leave that alone. I said one of the other things that the IRS requires, that you cannot participate in political activities as a 501c3 public supported organization. So if you're a church and somebody want to come and give their 2-minute speech and all of that kind of stuff, then you have to open it up to all the candidates in that particular race. Yeah. Who's recording me live and I'm giving... Okay, can I get a time? What time we're on? I just want to make sure you keep up with the time. Okay, so I got about 20 more minutes. We're good, and then we'll cut it for questions. Okay, so what is your mission? Oh, my. And when I give you examples, I can't make this stuff up because I can't think this fast. So I had a sweet little young lady. She's out of Orlando because I serve all 50 states. She sent me this laundry list of what her mission was. I mean, she had about 15 sentences. I'm not kidding. I was like, how do I tell her so nicely? I'm like, great start. But if I was a funder, you would have lost me by sentence 2. So let's try this. So I sent her something back, maybe 3 to 4 sentences. And she says, oh my, thank you so much. Your mission should be simple enough that you're able to give it in 30 to 45 seconds. All right? That's not your organizational history, but your mission is, why do you exist? Do you exist to decrease domestic violence? Do you exist to increase home ownership or economic development? Whatever your mission is, it should be movement behind it. It should be an action. We exist too, and whatever that is. What is the vision? How do you want the community to see you? Not how you see yourself, but how do you want the community to see you? And then the last thing is, what are your core values? When I ask people this, they give me this blank look like, why do you need to know that information? And my response is, if you don't know it, how would you want someone to fund you? That's the foundation. That's why I said the first station we're stopping at is foundation. I'm doing a project, kudos to Community Foundation of Palm Beach County and Martin County. I'm doing a project in the Western community with about 10 different organizations. Now, some of them have started already, but it's the hardest thing for them to come up with their mission, their vision, their core values. That's what you want to do before you do anything else. Why do you exist? And it should be really simple. Now, sometimes, I want to say right there for a few minutes, sometimes people will say, well, I want to do multiple things. And that's great, because what will happen, you'll start working with families and you will see the need. And that doesn't mean you have to be all things to all people. What you want to do is to make sure that you assess their needs and then maybe partner with another entity to provide those services, to give it a holistic framework. Does that make sense? So that's what could happen, all right? And I'm not saying you can't offer multiple services, because you'll see, especially when you're working with in the economic development field, you'll see I used to oversee a housing program. So taxes was our inroad to people coming into the center. But the goal was them to create assets. So then as you're working with them from home ownership, what do you think came up? Some people didn't make enough money, so we had to see if they can get into school to increase their income or take a trade. We had to look at financial coaching, what are their spending habits and their credit score. So there's many different layers, and let me be honest with you. And this is why, I am very passionate about people when they start nonprofit organizations. You're dealing with people's lives. Home ownership is a big deal. And hindsight, I would be like, whew, I used to do that. I would come and people would come to my office and literally it would turn into a real counseling session, because they would be there crying, saying their family members they didn't support them and they thought they were too good because now they didn't go to the mall and spend all their income tax money. I mean, it was a big deal. So what I'm saying is, when you start working with people in their life on one thing, you're going to see how the dots connect for other needs. And that's why this is not something you get into. And I'll tell people all the time, this is not something where you're your own boss. You come in at 10, you go to lunch at 12, you come back at 2, and leave at 4. It's not that kind of a setup. Okay? And I'm not fussing, I'm discussing. My voice get a little high. So I have to remember that. Calm down. All right? Cool beans. Okay, what is the cost factor? I said the state of Florida is $78.75, then $87.50. And what that includes is a certificate of status. Now, I hope nobody's watching this from the IRS, because they're going to get me for disclosing this information. The IRS user fees is $275 for the online Form 1023-EZ. It is $600. Do you believe the IRS actually reduced their price? Uh-huh. It used to be $900. First it was $750, then they increased it to $850, they increased it to $900, and now it's $600. 1023-EZ. It's the online streamline form. $600 If you mail it in, and we're going to talk about that. What time is it, please? I'm so sorry. I need a timer. Next week, I need a timer. Okay, good. And the other one is $2,000 if you do a group exemption. So I'm going to work my way backwards. If it's a group exemption, what that means is if I, Tessie, Miranda, Janelle, all of us, Mr. James, all of us come together and we want to apply because we're going to be partners. Me personally, Let me tell you the advantages and disadvantages of that. A lot of times people don't want the headaches of having to do paperwork. So they'll say, okay, I'll just work with you guys and I'll let you handle it. But can I tell you something? If one person mess up, it messes it up for everybody. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm giving you the advantages and disadvantages. What happened most recently with the group that I know, the parent company, because everybody was using the same EIN, the parent company did not pay their payroll taxes, okay? That is a tax that the IRS every nonprofit have to pay. Anybody that has employees, you are responsible for payroll tax. That's the only tax you're responsible for. And no, it's another one, but I'll tell you in a minute. Don't let me forget. Somebody write down the word tangible. We'll come to that in a minute. And so they didn't pay their payroll tax for 3 years. 3 years. So the IRS don't need permission to touch your money. I just want you to know that. Okay? Froze the other account because that was the first account because their name started with an A. And it was the smaller organizations that needed all their money to pay their bills. They didn't care. So they had to plow through all of that. And what ended up happening is they had to get a standalone 501c3, and they were just an affiliate with the other entity, but now they were in charge of their own organization. The other thing, while I'm talking about that, and we'll move on in a few minutes, the other thing is you want to make sure that when you serve on people boards, you know them. And you guys need to have meetings, and I'm not talking about you personally, but meetings are important. And I'm not saying you have to meet every month. Hey, you don't have to meet every month, but you need to have regular meetings. Why? Because you want to make sure that those things that you should be doing, filing your tax return, filing your annual reports, making sure you have a solicitation license, all of those things are requirements. Those are not options. Have another organization. I'm not playing. I can't make this stuff up. Didn't pay their taxes. When the board members did their tax returns, they kept their refund. That's why I don't sit on boards. I try not to. I just had to give up one because that's what's going on. But be careful. Those things I'm not making it. These are real situations. And while we're on boards, let me just stay right there, and then we'll open up for questions, and we'll finish and open for questions. While we're on boards, make sure that you have proper insurance. Can I tell you, general liability insurance is not that expensive. People hear $1 million coverage, and they think it costs $1 million. A general liability policy, depending on your level of activities, probably run you $1,000 a year, and that's about sometimes even less than that, anywhere between $800 to $1,000. So that's a few $50 or $60 a month. A lot of times, depending on what type of activities you do, you can't even put in for bids for services with your government without that level of insurance. Certain programs, I'm gonna be honest. Certain people have certain privileges because they think at the grassroots level, we're not prepared to do so. And the first thing they ask, I've had several meetings, and the first thing they ask, do you have $1 million in coverage? I said, I actually have 2. Because they're used to us not having it. I'm going to say this, and we're going to move on for real. Grassroots organizations are some of the hardest nonprofit organizations that work in our community. We're doing the work. But where we're missing it is the back office operations. We just start because it's in our head. or in our heart, and we just got to make sure that everything else line up. $275 online, $600 mail in, or $2,000 if it's a group. So why do you think the $275? What do you think is the characteristics or requirements for $275? It's the projected amount of what you would make in income. Let me be honest with you. Unless you know for sure you have that money in the bank, why would you pay extra? Can I tell y'all a story? So, people come in my office, they say all kind of stuff. So I had this one lady that says, I'm going to pay the $600. At that time, it was $900. She said, I'm going to pay the $900 because I'm believing God. I'm going to have this money. I said, great. I believe God with you, but I'm not paying the IRS $900. And I said, it's going to take longer unless you request what they call an expedited process. And it doesn't cost extra to do the expedited process, but it's no guarantee they're going to expedite the application. And because they're doing the streamline process now, this is probably maybe 7 years ago they started the streamline process. It could be up anywhere from between 6 months to a year for approval. And I said to her, well, do you have this money in the bank? No, I don't. Do you know beyond a shadow of a doubt you're going to make $50,000 in the next 4 years? She said, I sure hope so. I said, but do you know? She couldn't answer. So I said, help me process this. It's $275 if we do it online on what you think, not sure. You get approved 6 to 12 weeks, sometimes much sooner than that. And if you do bring in more than $50,000, the only thing you're required to is tell the IRS on your next tax return. She says, oh. I said, the Lord changed his mind. So really and truthfully, it's on projections as it relates to your budget. That's what it is. It's a user fee. It's nothing more or nothing less. The IRS says this is your fee for you projecting of what your income will be for the next set of number of years. And if you happen to be, get fortunate enough to give that money the next day after you submit that application, it's not a ding, it's not a penalty, it's nothing. You just have to report it on your tax return. Y'all looking at me funny. You have a question? Write it down, because you're looking like, I don't know about that. It's the truth, okay? All right, what time is it, please? Okay, 10 minutes. We're good. Okay, can the nonprofit organization make a profit? I already answered that. Yes, it can. What should be the balance in your account at the end of the organizational fiscal year?
And raise it high, too. And the reason I say raise your hand, because I said the exact same thing when I first went with Ms. Stringer. So don't be ashamed. Raise your hand and say it.
Sir, if you spend all your money on December the 31st, what are you starting your account with on January 1st? Everybody want to help y'all brother out. Can y'all want to help him out?
When you already budget that out for your startup for next year?
Yes.
Or will your book be zero? Your balance will be
Your accounting system would be zero.
budget, right?
Your accounting system internal will be zero, but you wouldn't spend all your money.
That's what I'm saying.
No, that's not what I asked. The question said, what would your account? Yes, it's the type of budgeting accounting system, and a lot of people somebody told me I got to spend all my money, I can't make a profit. Are you conscious? I mean sit on TV. No, that's not correct. What you're doing is two things. If your funding mechanism is in that length of time, and you're required to spend it all according to what the funders request. You would do that. But never, ever in life should you spend everything out of your account and hope that some money going to fall from the sky January 1 or July 1st or October 1st, depending on your fiscal year. Only thing that is your accounting system. You want to have a zero-based budget to know where your program starts and stops, internally only.
I was speaking in terms of a balance.
Oh, now you're trying to save yourself. That's okay. For the closing of the year, it shouldn't be zero because hopefully you have something to carry over. Give me 1 minute. Just you write it down so you don't forget. It should be whatever you end with. The only time, and funders do give you a space of time that you spend those dollars, and sometimes they may give you a limit. They'll say anything under $100 is okay, or you have to expend all of it. It really depends on the funder or donor, or it may be revenue for fee and services, and you determine that because that's your own in-house money that you're dealing with. Yeah, and so I get that all the time and I said, if you think United Way starts off with zero every July 1st, no. They just make sure that budget internally is balanced with the income and expenses on that balance sheet, but whatever rolls over, it rolls over to that next fiscal year. And that's a lot to consume with our grassroots organizations. But remember, I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter if you're handling $5 or $5 million. The process is the same. Okay? You good? Y'all still with me? All right. So here's your administrative checklist. You need an organizational chart. You need to know who's on first and who's on second. That's vitally important. I don't care if you got 3 people. Those 3 people should be on that organizational chart. Make sure you have proper insurance. Your corporate binder should include your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, your board documents, and your HR checklist. It doesn't matter that you don't have paid staff. You still need to have a policies and procedure manual. You still need to make sure you have your background checks, depending on what program you're offering. And let me be honest with you. The insurance company, I'm an insurance agent, the insurance company is not in the business to pay claims. I know that sounds a little bad, right? But guess what? If you're dealing with children, people with disabilities, and the senior population, the state of Florida consider that the vulnerable population at all spectrums. And it's your responsibility, even if you're not getting government funding or not, to make sure every individual that work with minors, people with disabilities, and elders are background checked. Why am I saying that? I'm glad you asked. Because when you have a claim, Antoine, don't give me that look. When you have a claim and the insurance company asks these questions, do you do background checks, and you say no? 9 times out of 10, you're going to be denied that claim. And then who they going to come after? Who they going to come after? You and your board. And Tessa said, your board. So you already know. Fundraising, your job descriptions, volunteer applications, fiscal policies, and administrative forms should be. All right? There is no way possible in an hour for me to disclose everything about the world of nonprofit. You're more than welcome to call me. I'll give you out my information. Matter of fact, you have my information there. We will, week 3, talk about fundraising, but I do have a grant writing workshop coming up. I've taught this workshop locally and nationally. I'm not trying to sell myself, but I am trying to tell you need to invest in yourself if this is something you're looking to do. So without any further ado, questions? Questions? Yes. Stand, please.
The things that are listed under the administrative checklist, do you need to have those before applying for the nonprofit?
The question is, do you need to have the administrative forms before you apply for the nonprofit? And that's no, you don't have to have them. I'm giving you what you should have. One of the things that's not on there, you need to make sure, even though you are a nonprofit, you still have to do your business tax receipt. There is a different price for nonprofits, and you have to do your certificate of occupancy depending on the municipality that you live in, that the organization is in, and you have to do tangible property tax. You have to apply for that as well. And you're not paying anything on it, but you still have to report it with the property appraiser's office. And before I forget, and Councilman, you can get the next question in a minute. Before I forget, I told you that there is 2 different type of tax. So after you get approved as a 501c3, there's 2 things: the solicitation license. The state of Florida requires every single charitable organization, with the exception of church and government, to be registered to solicit funds. Ask me how many people know that, and I don't want to tell you. The state of Florida, the Department of Consumer and Agricultural Services, require every nonprofit, with the exception of churches and the government, to be registered to solicit funds. If you're caught without it, that's a cute little fine. After you get approved, you have a tax-exempt certificate, meaning you don't pay tax when you rent locations, when you go to Sam's, when you go to Office Depot. Every vendor has a different process in which they do not charge you tax. What I always tell everybody, scan that document in your email. If you have a board meeting at a restaurant, they're going to ask for a copy. You can email it to them. If you buy pizza, they want a hard copy every time you order pizza. If you go to Office Depot, they give you a tax-exempt card, and that card is good for 5 years according to your exemption, your expiration date. Sam's, you add it to your card, it'll tell you, is this purchase tax exempt? And you tell them yes or no. The other thing is, if you sell tangible items, now this is something different. If you sell tangible items, shirts, food, all of the above, I'm gonna turn this way because I know, you have to get a resale tax certificate from the Department of Revenue, even though you're tax exempt. Because the Department of Revenue says anything that's tangible, you're supposed to pay taxes on it. Resale tax certificates. So a nonprofit is required to have 2. Tax exempt, so you're not paying taxes on anything, but tax resale if you're selling tangible items.
Part of my fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers as an elected official is to make sure that we work with different organizations like this. The Stringer's organization is qualified as a registered agent, nonprofit, and also she has her status in place. So without that, she wouldn't be able to host this event funded by the city. Now, there are nonprofit organizations that are not registered, but the city of Riviera Beach requires you to be registered and have your filing status in place so that this could be funded so she could host this for you guys. Now, those are the type of things that need to be done, especially within municipalities. So when you go to different government agencies and you want to receive those type of contracts and funding and support, whether it's through their community benefits, whether it's through any financing of nonprofit status, you have to be fully registered and certified. Okay? And please, I wanted to also let you guys know, please ask as many questions as possible. We have the room till about 8 o'clock, so I want you guys to ask the questions that's necessary. We have 2 more weeks of training and understanding and education, but tonight is our kickoff. So whatever questions you have, no matter what they are, please ask them.
Okay, Ms. Chandra, can you give an example of what is revenue for fees and services?
Oh, yes, anything. You know, years ago, and my colleague and my sisters in the back, years ago, she's still working in the house, and I do a little bit. Years ago, everything was free. Everything was free. You wanted housing counseling, free. You wanted to come to the first-time home buyers class, it was free. You want credit counseling, it was free. Guess what? Those numbers that I gave you up there with all of those nonprofits existing, funding has shrunk. And I don't want to talk about our government, but anyway, everything is declining. So now you're being charged with being creative in the manner in which you create revenue. Fee for services is one of those. So no longer do you, unless a bank sponsors a first-time home buyer class, generally you're going to pay. You're going to pay $50 or $60 or $40 or what have you. So anything that you provide a service for, you can charge for it. And what does that look like? We're going to use Goodwill. I should send them a bill because every time I do this, I give them a shout out. A lot of times people do not like donating to Goodwill. They're like, oh, we give them their clothes and our stuff and they sell it. It's called revenue for program and services. What they do for the money that they collect, first of all, they employ people with disabilities. That's number one. Number two, the revenue that's generated from those sales, they put back into the program by providing life coaches. They provide counseling because many of those individuals with disabilities actually live on their own. And so anything that you can think of, that, believe it or not, in 2019, they call it, a lot of times, if it's food or thrift store, they call it a social enterprise. And I encourage people. That's why when I do grant writing, I say grant writing and resource development, because it's bigger than just getting a grant. Grants really and truthfully should make up about 35% of your total revenue. So that means you got 65% more to make up.
Hey, 2 quick questions.
Yes.
What was the third? The IRS requires dissolution clause, no political activity, and what was the third thing?
And that when you, let me get my notes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Oh, refrain from supporting political activities.
I thought that was 2. Dissolution clause, no political activity.
Oh, and your exempt purpose, meaning there is a language that the IRS requires you to have. Remember I said you can't do your things online? There is a certain language by law they require you to have in your purpose. So that is in there. And then if that's a general statement, and then what your specific purpose will be. When you're doing the application, they call it your classification. So I just know from doing the online applications, you'll do a P99. A P99 means you're like a community-based type organization that's going to provide various empowerment type of programs. So they require you to be specific as it relates to the general language that they want in there by law and your specific exempt purposes.
Okay, and my second question, you were just saying there were 3 other things. It was business tax receipt, certificate of occupancy, and then I missed the third one.
Tangible property tax. So if you have an office space and you have 5 computers, you have to give them a value or anything and everything else. A lot of times, as long as it's under $25,000, you're not taxed on it. So many of our grassroots organizations meet that cap.
Before we go to the next question, just wanted to make a quick announcement. I don't believe Ms. Stringer even knows that one of the members that's registered that are going to attend all 3 classes. So there's a few people that actually didn't show up tonight. A few people called and said they're not going to be available. Whoever attended tonight and attends the next 2 sessions will have an opportunity through our foundation to have a free registration done for your nonprofit. We will take care of the process for you. Okay?
What's going on there, councilman?
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and walk you through that whole process. Ms. Stringer is going to do the filing for us, and she's going to be doing everything to walk you guys through actually having your free nonprofit. So that'll be a raffle that we're going to do. Everybody are going to get tickets at the last session. We have all the list of names from today, so everybody that showed up will get tickets the last day, and we'll do a raffle to make sure that you guys get an opportunity to win that. So by the end of this session, you guys will have a nonprofit registered. Okay?
Questions? We have several in the back.
Actually, my question was about raffles. What are the rules with raffles? Like, if you want to have a large raffle.
You have to register. The Department of Consumer Service and Agriculture outlines that. I do not get a lot into that, so I don't know the specifics, but there is a registration process.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Here. We see your hands. Just keep.
Hi.
Hi.
So my concern is for individuals who are currently learning, like people who are here in the process of building their organization. To what extent can they operate, or if at all, can they operate if they're trying to raise money to start their organization?
Great question. So depending on who you're soliciting for your funds, there are times where your local foundations, and let me tell you, our local foundations are awesome. Quantum Foundation, Community Foundation, Children's Services Council of Palm Beach County, those people are awesome. They have really, and I tip my hat off to Quantum Foundation because they were the first forerunners. And what they do is they provide funding for organizations. So a lot of times they understand that you're just starting off, so they will ask you to pair up with another organization, which will be your fiscal agent. And what a fiscal agent is, it's saying that this organization has have some form of experience with handling money, and while you're doing your programming, the money will pass through this organization and then they will administer it to you. Okay, because like Councilman Lawson said, you have to be a 501c3. And let me just be honest, many of them before never asked about the solicitation license. Now everybody's asking about it because that's a requirement, that's a law. Those are not options. And so to make sure that their board is held responsible and accountable that this money is going to a viable entity, they have actually, everybody's asking for that document now. But if you're wanting to do something, you want to solicit funds, make sure you do your due diligence to search out a fiscal agent to be able to help come alongside you and do that. In the back, and then I'm coming to you, Tessie. Go ahead.
The question that I have as far as your board goes, how many people actually have to be on your board and what are their positions?
Okay, great question. So I recommend a minimum of 3 to start. The reason why I say start because sometimes funding is at stake, so you need to get through the process immediately. But I also will say you need to think about the longevity of the organization. So there are times we do what we call a board matrix. So on that board matrix, it will help you to see what age range you want people to be on your board according to your purpose and your mission, what level of professionalism, any affiliates that they may have, because the IRS is very key about that also. They want to know that there is not palm washing on the board. So because you're an accountant, you automatically get our accounting business. It's not saying that you can't, but there's a method and a conflict of interest policy that has to be established if that happens. So I always say the state of Florida requires a minimum of 3 to start, but it could be anywhere to the tunes of 9 to 12. United Way, believe it or not, years ago used to have 67 people on their board. 67. So probably about 5 or 6 years ago, they cut that way down. And can I give you guys a tip? Can I give you a tip? Y'all want a tip? So a lot of people will say because they're found in an organization, and Tessie, you'll be next for questions, they found in an organization, what prevents people from voting you off the board? You ever thought about that? Y'all got to call me. I'm the consultant. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. So anyway, what I generally do is I remind the founder to put something in their bylaws that will protect them. And what that does is to say that their position is perpetual unless there is a proven convicted sentence crime. And that means you're going to be in prison. So they're going to have to vote you off. But I'm telling you, I can't make this stuff up. About 8 years ago, there was a situation. Someone founded an organization, and because they were up in age, the board literally was getting ready to vote this person out. Now, mind you, this person took all of their retirement, everything to start this organization. It had got it to the level that it was at. And the board themselves was going to vote him off. And because of the bylaws had that clause in it, they could not. So go ahead and keep using LegalZoom. They're going to help y'all out. I ain't throw the little cheap shot in there. I ain't throw no shade in that test.
You did. No, you did not. Okay, so I've seen organizations that they start out as an LLC and then they bring in a nonprofit up under it. So would you speak on that?
Yes, it's wrong. All wrong. Wrong. So what happens is every corporation generally will have a charitable arm, right? It doesn't, so it's not under there. It's an affiliated with it. And I say under there, meaning legally structured. So any corporation you can think of, from Burger King to McDonald's to Coca-Cola to Ford to Microsoft Office, anybody you can think of, they're going to have a charitable arm. They do it for a few reasons. One, it's a tax savings for them, all right? And two, like my ma'am in the back, they want people to know that they're givers back to the community in which they are established. That's why a lot of times when you're doing your grant research, they will say we only give to the community where we have a presence. But generally, you're gonna find your for-profit companies, 99.9% of the time, will have a charitable arm.
Just to speak on that personal experience, actually, Ms. Stringer taught me about this. I own my own business, and I've been doing charitable donations to the community for a number of years. So she was telling me, why don't you have a charitable arm? I'm like, I don't know nothing about it. I mean, I've heard about them, but I don't know the process. So years ago, she taught me and educated me on the process of actually starting a nonprofit, the benefits behind it, and what we're doing already in the community and why it's actually a benefit for us as a nonprofit arm. So I have my Infinity tax office, and I created the Infinity Foundation, where we do the youth mentoring for the community. So we do a youth mentoring for young men and young women now, where we educate about entrepreneurship between the ages of 13 and 17. And then that provides a service to the residents that's free, and I can take donations to actually fund it. So we do a weekly program once a year, and then every month we take them around and just mentor and pour into them. The kids that don't learn about certain things like business development, credit, finance, entrepreneurship, seeing young people in our community that look like them, that actually can show them and direct them in the right direction, would maybe not afforded the opportunity to go to college. So these are different things that we actually do, and that I took my business and actually created the nonprofit with.
Mm-hmm. So with that charitable arm, what you're saying, if you're filing for a grant, is that a standalone organization? You don't affiliate it with your for-profit?
Not affiliated. It's not the same.
It's not the same, right?
Right.
So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that you don't
Right.
say Affinity making money, and then Affinity donating money, like doing business as. It's nothing
Right.
like
No,
that.
no,
Okay.
it's totally two standalone entities, but it can collaborate. And that's important because the money has to come from somewhere. And a lot of times, I hate to say this, money begets money. So there are times where people won't give to you until they see you already have money. And so where that money comes from, you will, secure money from your friends and your colleagues as well as your own organization. But long term, you don't anticipate starting a nonprofit to self-fund it. It should be public, it should be supported by the public because you're doing impact. And I'm telling you, y'all get here early next week and come with your thinking caps because we're gonna go through logic models. And let me tell you, that's get deep.
This is my first time. How you doing?
Hi.
I'm starting a small organization too, but I want to start it from my house first. Do you gonna need insurance? You was talking about insurance. Do I have to have the insurance to start it from my house first? Because basically it's gonna go out like speaking in public with this when I get it started.
Okay, so your homeowner's insurance cannot be used as a general liability insurance. So what that will look like, you can use your home as your address, but in another month, come and see me. I have virtual office space. Like I keep saying that, right? and no, but seriously, and let me say this, I'm joking, but I'm not joking, because people will take you more seriously with a commercial address. They will. And then the other thing is when you're out, and this is huge because most people don't even think about this, when you're doing vending events or anything like that, you have a table, someone bumped their leg on your table, who you think they're gonna sue? You and your board. People do that and they be like, Sheridan, you just insurance happy. I said, honey, I'm smart happy. Because I'm telling you, it happens all the time. So me personally, I would recommend once you get it going, look at having a virtual office space so that way they know that you use 10 by 10 room at this time. And when you go out, you're going to do two things. You're going to either get a certificate of insurance or additional insurer, depending on the activities that you're going to be doing. You will sleep much better at night.
One of the things that we're looking at with the city as well, the CRA recently purchased the bank on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway. And they're looking to do an Acula incubator space on the second floor where it's going to have these type of virtual offices, these small satellite offices that will be prime for the nonprofits. So that's why we want to start to create and nourish this program now from people of the community to start to build and establish these nonprofit organizations so that they can pour back into the community. And we're going to have the locations that you can actually, house your nonprofits right here in the city. So those are the things why we want to start early to build and develop and grow these nonprofits, teaching you, educating you, and showing you that process, and then give you opportunities of where you can house them. And then the next step is going to be funding, where we're going to talk about grant writing. We're going to talk about how to actually solicit money and funds from different organizations, and how to grow and develop it to another level. Okay.
Right. And
We-
I'm sorry.
We
Go
have
ahead.
time for 2 more questions, guys, because we want to get you guys out of here on time, and we were only allotted till 8, but remember that we will be here next week. Be on time. We'll have food. We're going to do a mixer from 6:30 to 6:45. We may have another presentation, and then we're going to get started immediately at 6:45.
Let me go back to Tessie's question just to expound a little bit on that, and then we'll get 2 more from the floor. And if so, give you prime examples. Like for me, I said I was the president of Grassroots Consulting. That is the for-profit organization. But then the nonprofit is the GCI, Training and Empowerment Center, and all its subsidiaries. But even though I'm housed in the same building, both of them have their own lease. You got to keep it separate. You got to keep it clean. So if I have the building or have something in my name, then I would do 2 things. Either GCI carry its own lease or its sublease. It's very important. And when we talk about programming next week, we're going to look at budgets because funders want to know, even if someone's giving you space, one day that gift is going to run out. So you don't want a sticker shock. You want to say, well, for 5 years we're not paying rent, and then when they say, hey, hello, we need rent money, and it's $1,000, and you look like, what? So you want to include that in your program budget. This is what rent would cost. This is what a telephone would cost. This is what lights and cable would cost. You would include all of that in there, even though for a short period of time you may or may not have to pay that. Any more questions from the floor? Yes.
I'm involved with a nonprofit that's about a year old. I've been using QuickBooks,
yes,
but I'm finding it really doesn't capture anything. Is that a topic that you can address? Because there's volunteer hours.
Ooh, child, you talking about language.
Mileage. And if you're applying for a grant, they want to see the whole picture.
Yes.
You may not be really money rich.
Yep.
But you're doing a pretty good job. And I've looked at some different things. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there, but it's confusing to me because I'd like something that also has a good donor data bank in it as well to kind of keep it all straight. We're young enough now that we could make a transition to just about anything before you get too far down the road. I'd like advice.
Wow. Oh, she asked about 10 questions in one sentence. So, so a couple of things. One, if it's QuickBooks, it needs to be set up QuickBooks nonprofit. That's one of the things. The other thing, write this down, TechSoup, TechSoup.org is where you can get donor software for pennies on a dollar. You do have to be a 501c3 registered nonprofit organization. As it relates to...
Could you repeat that one more time?
I'm sorry, TechSoup.org.
Because I need that as well, ma'am.
That's any of your software or computers. You have to be a registered 501c3. QuickBooks for nonprofits you can get for $50 for one user and about $99 for 3 users. Your Microsoft Office, the whole suite, you can get volume where you can download on multiple computers for about $39. Adobe, $149. I mean, it's crazy ridiculous. Now, volunteer time. That can be captured in a software as well. But what you want to do, now this is what I want to be very careful on. She said about volunteer time and in-kind. You still, as a nonprofit, have to account for in-kind donations. I used to oversee an organization. Our budget was about $1 million. 150 to 200 was actually cash, and the other 800,000 was in kind because we ran a food program picked up from Publix 7 days a week, 3 and 4 stores. So you still have to give an account for in kind, and that in kind volunteer time, in kind tangible items will let you know what type of tax return you have to file for that nonprofit organization. If it's under $50,000, you file a 990N e-postcard. If it's $50,001 up to $200,000, it's a 990EZ with the attachments. Anything over $201,000 is a full 990 tax return with the attachments. Getting back to your volunteer time, that's great. Independent sector, independentsector.org says for volunteer time you can use for the state of Florida is $23 and some change per hour per person. Now, people will say, well, we don't pay our secretary that much. Everything is according to best practices. So let's do a quick walkthrough as our time is ending. So you have 5 volunteers that work 10 hours per week times 40 weeks in a year. You would take that formula and multiply it times the $23 and we're going to say $23.12 for the sake of numbers. That line item would be income on your budget. That same line item would be an expense on your budget because you're expending the time. But like she said, it's important because funders will see and know that someone else believes in you. Last questions.
So one thing I wanted to also let you guys know is a few things we're going to be talking about is credit. And I didn't understand the importance of, why we would be talking about credit with a nonprofit, but as I realized that building my for-profit company that you want to create a credit profile, you also want to do the same thing for your nonprofit. So we're going to talk about credit and the importance of credit when it comes to nonprofits. The next 2 weeks, guys, I really need you guys to be here and be here on time. And if you have somebody that's registered and they didn't make it, let them know they need to be here because the information is going to be valuable. But the only people that can actually win the raffle are the ones that are here tonight. So make sure that you guys show up next week. If we have no more questions from anybody, we will see you guys next week. Thank you again. Please, if you could give a round of applause for Ms. Stringer.
Don't forget to check in, and you see my social media handles in the paperwork. See you guys next week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone.